Welcome into Pirate Talk. Al Myatt, joined by Kevin Monroe. Kevin, of course, outstanding defensive back in his playing days, East Carolina. And we started Pirate Talk kind of as a outshoot from the Bonesville pregame podcast. But as we all know, football is going on year-round now with the transfer portal and spring football, preseason practice. And so we've added basketball and baseball to discuss. And Kevin, a lot to talk about since the last time we got together. The spring football game, Purple Gold game, is in the books. I don't think there's really been a quarterback to emerge between Emory Williams from Miami and Mitch Griffis from Texas Tech. From what I can tell, they both have their specific skill areas, but I don't know that Coach Blake Harrell is going to be that interested in naming a starter before the first game because that only gives Alabama an opportunity to prepare for one guy.
Yeah, and it makes it extremely hard, Al, when you have two very different quarterbacks. I mean, I'm not ready to call them polar opposites, but you have one guy in Williams that's big, tall, 6'5", 6'6" guy that is not really a runner, that has a big, strong arm, that's accurate passer. And you got another guy that's more of a gunslinger. He's more in that Drew Brees mold. And Griffis that can move around a little bit. He's smaller, right around 6 feet or so. That just can make the different throws, but he's just more of a wildcat. He's better, on the outside of the pocket, moving around, making things happen. And so, it'll be hard for a team like Alabama. I mean, again, it's Alabama, but it'd be hard for any team starting off the season to prepare for both those guys. And so that'll put a little bit of pressure on them. There really is no rush to come up with the starter. Give these guys an opportunity to go through summer workouts, get in the preseason, and then into the fall before you make a decision. And even then, as long as you give yourself a couple weeks before the first game, that's plenty of time. So I look forward to both of these guys, taking that next step forward to getting better where the team, sees one guy emerge, or they feel good about both of them, and the coaches just have to see who they want to go with.
And whoever trots out for that first series in Tuscaloosa, whether it's Emory Williams or Mitch Griffis, you recall, of course, that East Carolina has had some quarterback competitions in the past, and I think it was Rio Johnson started a season that Shane Carden emerged, and then, of course, Jake Garcia was the starter before the man from Michigan State came in and took that job. He's at Illinois now. So Emory Williams had a 25-yard scoring pass to Ray Joseph, his former Miami teammate in the spring game. Mitch Griffis directed a 65-yard scoring drive, and that was capped by a 7-yard run by Ashton Gray, and he's the running back transfer from North Texas, and that's where the new coordinator is from. And so it looks to me on that basis, and Ashton Gray had a big game in the New Mexico Bowl, that he certainly might be one that we'll be seeing a lot of at running back for the Pirates, Ashton Gray.
Yeah, I think we'll have a very deep running back core. We had 3 or 4 guys playing the position last year, and I think it'll be very similar this year. But Ashton Gray early on is looking like the guy who's going to emerge as being kind of the main back. But, obviously it's backed by committee for most programs and even most NFL teams these days. You don't just have one guy. But we saw what he could do in that bowl game for North Texas, and then he's come to Greenville. And he hadn't left his foot off the gas pedal. He's just pushing straight ahead and playing very, very well. You mentioned Mason Garcia, and I think I saw in the news that he's on the move again. He'd gone to Michigan, leaving East Carolina, and now from Michigan he's at Furman. So this will be now Miami, Missouri, East Carolina, Michigan, and Furman. So 5 schools in his college career. And I think he moved a couple times in high school as well. So he's a bit of a journeyman. And maybe Furman will be his last stop. We'll see. I don't know how he still has eligibility left.
Great guy. He had a little daughter that he was concerned about supporting, so I think Jake had to kind of follow the money there. And I wish him well at Furman.
Yep.
And Kevin, you can stick your chest out a little bit. The defense won the red zone shootout in the spring game, 19-15, and that's with all the firepower that's transferring in. But oftentimes the defense will be ready to play before the offense is ready.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and it really has more to do with just on defense. You can just kind of go out there and play ball. Like you on offense, you can't do that. You got to get in the playbook. You got to get on the same page with the quarterback. The running game's got to be good, and the run game is only going to be good if the offensive line is in sync and doing their thing. And so the Pirates, don't have a single. I think they have two guys that have some returning starts at offensive line coming back, but most of those starting offensive linemen are gone. So they've got to get that in sync, and they're doing that. They've got some transfers that are playing well on the O-line. Brandon Best looks like he could be the starter at center. Ethan Kramer's looking good at guard. Hayes Creel's another guy that looks pretty good at one of the tackle spots. So I think they've got some guys on the offensive line that are coming together. But yeah, defensively, you just go out there and play ball. You line up, and if you're at linebacker, you go tackle the football. You're at DB, you go cover receivers. And yeah, you got to run schemes and stunts and different things like that. But you pick up that stuff much faster than you do offensively. And I've heard some good things, especially from the defensive backfield, which is my old stomping grounds. They've picked up some good players. They had the App State transfer. Zaire Gamble is going to be playing some safety. He looks good so far. There's been a couple of corners. I think we brought in 3 or 4 corners in the transfer portal. They've all had some good moments here and there. So I think they're getting excited about what they got going on in the back end. They had some guys returning at the D-line position, but linebacker and defensive back were thin. And so that's where they had to fill in spots. And it's looking good so far early on and through the spring. So we'll see how that pans out there going into preseason camp.
Defense has been a strong point for East Carolina football ever since Blake Harrell got to the school, and at times before that. But place kicking, we had good place kicking last year. And Noah Perez, Andrew Conrad, Everett Scott all kicked field goals or did some place kicking in the spring game. So I'm guessing that's going to be an ongoing competition in the 2026 season.
Yeah, after good kicking last year, I'm a little surprised that they didn't bring in anybody in the portal like they did a year ago to take over. But they do have, as you said, Conrad and Perez. We've seen them. Scott, I think, did a lot of kickoffs last year, but we've seen those guys each have, some success in the kicking game, just not a lot of consistency. So that's what we're trying to figure out is that consistency. And so we'll just see if anything changes between now and the fall and how that goes. But certainly you want to be able to get, inside the 30 and feel comfortable that one of those guys can come off the sidelines and knock the kick through. So we'll just have to see. I'm excited offensively about what they can do. We talked about Ashton Gray. You mentioned Ray Joseph scored in the spring game. He's a guy that came in from Miami. He's familiar with Williams, the quarterback from Miami. And he's just a guy that's just a really, crafty, yards after catch, kind of quick, moving, player. And I think they're excited about him. They're excited what they've seen from him so far in the spring. Jeremiah Melvin's another one who's 6'4". He can kind of go up and get it in the end zone, in the red zone. And so they're excited about him. Landon Sides is another wide receiver they like a lot. So they brought in some guys that can get it done. And that's aside from the couple they had returning from last year. So I think from a skill position standpoint, East Carolina is going to pick up right where they left off a year ago. They just got to plug and play the right quarterbacks and get that offensive line working in sync because they look good at both receiver and running back.
Okay. Basketball, a lot of personnel to replace, and they've done a good job, I think, with that from the transfer portal. But, Jordan Riley, Giovanni Imajuru, Dimitri Gardner all completed their eligibility. And then you had some others that were primetime players, Corey Calker, Reed Kaysen, effective at times off the bench. Travion LeBeau was injured much of the year. Tybo Bailey injured much of the year. Isaiah Mbang had his moments, inconsistent at times. Patrick D'Arcy, Vito Pelkovic, ditto for those guys. But 8 players in all got into the portal. But let's talk a little bit about the replacements. You've got 6'7" Draylon Creasy from Blue Ridge School in Bryce, Virginia. And he had offers, Kevin, from Mississippi State, Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, and Virginia Tech. And that indicates that he's quality talent.
Yeah, when you have a guy that comes in has got Power 4 offers, that can get it done, and he chooses East Carolina. That speaks to the job that Coach Schwartz is doing in recruiting, first and foremost. Also speaks to the fact that the Pirates must have found some NIL money there to entice a guy like that. So that's good that whatever, whether it's Pirate Club or whatever, you're finding ways to get the money to get these guys. Hate to say that, but that's just where we are in the scope of college sports. So you've got to have a little bit of money to be able to get guys here. And so, yeah, he's one that I feel like we stole, and we're excited about him.
Kevin, the last time that East Carolina was in postseason play was 2014, I believe. And that was in the College Insider Tournament. And just doing the math, there were 116 postseason berths last year, counting the NCAA was 68. You had the NIT, and then the tournament in Las Vegas, the College Basketball Crown Tournament. And so they're talking about expanding the NCAA tournament field by 8 teams to 76. I think the play-ins are going to involve 12 teams rather than 4 this coming year. But 355 D1 teams, 116 berths, and there's the possibility of another tournament being resurrected in the postseason. It seems like to me making postseason play is going to be a realistic goal for East Carolina as the program we look for it to step up.
It has to be. I mean, coming out of high school, coming from junior college, coming from Division II, Division III, players want to go to places where there's excitement around basketball or they got a chance to make the big dance. And if you don't have those things to provide, they're going to find the schools that do. And it has nothing to do with being mid-majors, because there's mid-major programs out there that make the big dance routinely. And they're only trying to make it easier by expanding the teams and giving you an opportunity to play in games and giving an opportunity to get in that first round and just see what happens. Because, often, there's the 12-5 upsets and things like that. And so you have to give your team an opportunity to get there. And there's no reason East Carolina finds themselves sitting nicely in the transfer portal, day and age, because yes, they're going to lose a lot of players. They're going to lose a lot of players every year. Whenever you have a Jordan Riley, obviously he's not a portal guy leaving because he was a senior, but that's, he's the kind of guy that you'll get out of the portal. A guy that, maybe flies under the radar, maybe people don't know a whole lot about, that comes from another mid-major program or comes from a Division II program or junior college or what have you, that you can get, or a guy that went to a Power 4 program coming out of high school and maybe just sat on the bench for a while because he's got a lot of good guys playing ahead of him, comes down and wants to play at East Carolina. So I think they find themselves perfectly fit for the portal in terms of getting players. They're just going to have to do it every year. I mean, it becomes a fantasy draft every year for East Carolina because they're not going to be able to keep guys. If they have guys that come in and play well, like a Corey Calker that shows up and plays well early on in his career, they're going to be gone. And so that's just the nature of today's day and age, today's game. And so you got to be ready for that. And so I think that they, as you mentioned, rattle off some of the names of these guys that are coming in. I think they'll be poised to play well. And as you said, the odds are getting better and better to get in some sort of tournament, whatever that tournament is, to get in the postseason. That's what those guys want when they come to East Carolina.
Just tracking some of the guys, or all of the guys, we've got them listed here, who have come in via the transfer portal. Matthew Hinton, 6'9", 245, and like they say, you can't teach size. You can't tell a 6'2" guard he's going to be 6'10". So he's 6'9", 245 from Gulf Coast Junior College, and they went 23-7 last year. And Matthew Hinton averaged 10.9 points, 6.5 rebounds, 1.4 blocks, and that was in 21.4 minutes. So you double those numbers basically on a 40-point scale, and those numbers are really good. You got Clan Medley. He's a point guard from Kent State, and Kent State went 24-10 last year. He's 5'11", 172. He averaged 10.5 points, 6.4 assists, very good. And somebody who can distribute the ball with guys that can shoot and score, that can work out really well. Caden Cooper, 6'6", 200. He's a wing from Louisiana Tech. He transferred there from Oklahoma. He averaged 9.7 points, 7.7 rebounds, but his strength is as a defender. And he was rated among the top 10 in the portal among available players for his defense. And Louisiana Tech had 20-plus wins both seasons that he was there. So he looks like a good acquisition. Bryce Blaine, 6'5", 205 shooting guard, 17.2 points, 7.2 rebounds, hit 34.5% of his threes. And he has been to Minji's Coliseum, Kevin, 23 points, 12 rebounds for Charleston Southern last year when they came in and topped East Carolina 77-65. That was in the non-conference early part of the season. He canceled visits to Utah and NC State after committing to the Pirates. Bryce Blaine. And then Jordan Buchanan, he's a D2 transfer from California University of Pennsylvania, 6'5", 175, and he hit 39.3 from three, and that's a good percentage. And, you know, if you can knock it down from that range, the line isn't going to move, whether it's power 4 or D3 or wherever you might be.
That's
he
right.
averaged 15.3 points, 4.7 rebounds. So I like the fact they're getting some scorers in. And certainly they're going to transition from being almost one-dimensional at times with Jordan Riley and his scoring, carrying the scoring load last year. And I like the fact that they've got a point guard that can distribute to the scorers.
Absolutely. You know, they've got the 6'9", 245 guy down there, right, to give you some size and some beef down there, maybe to replace a guy like Imajuru. But then you get the wing that's 6'6", you get 2 6'5" guards, one of them that can really stroke it. You get the 5'11" point guard. This point guard, I mean, his stats are great. I mean, he's averaging 6 or 7 assists a game. He's, you know, getting 10 points a game. Like I can promise you, the only reason that he's not a power 4 guy is because he's 5'11". And that's okay. We'll take that. We'll take that 5'11" if he can still find a way to get his shot off. He can still distribute the basketball. So I'm excited about him getting an opportunity to get the ball to these bigger guards that can make plays on the wing or shoot the jump shot after he penetrates and dishes. So it's shaping up to be a nice little team. And this is what they're going to have to do every year. It's just, I mean, they have to have a scouting department and they have to go out and find these diamonds in the rough every single year to keep it going. And Pirate fans just going to have to be happy with rooting for the name East Carolina and not falling in love with individual players, because that day and age is gone for right now.
Well, you know, it just makes you appreciate R.J. Felton when he was there and stayed 4 years and had the career that he did. But he's, as you say, he's a dinosaur in the game today in terms of that loyalty to a program.
That's right.
You know, and as far as being 5'11", I don't have a problem with that. Ball handling relates to the floor. It doesn't relate to the basket, which is, of course, 10 feet above the floor. But you take a guy like Tyrone Bogues that played at Wake Forest, great ball handler, and he managed to be a contributor in the NBA.
That's
at
right.
5'3". So he is dwarfed by the Kent State transfer in terms of that. But I'm sure he's a good ball handler, and sometimes that's exactly what you need.
Now, listen, Al, to be clear, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill is ended the season with one guy on their roster. So obviously their coach got fired, but between the transfer portal and seniors graduating and the coach getting fired and players leaving, I mean, they got decimated. But it's Chapel Hill, so people are chomping at the bit to get there, and they're getting big name guys are signing from all over the country. So it's going to happen in this day and age. The transfer portal, it's not just the East Carolinas that are losing guys; the big name schools are losing them as well.
Well, one thing that I see with North Carolina that inhibits them is their sense of self-importance, and they feel like that they should command college basketball. If they snap their finger and got a guy that's got a national caliber program, then he should come and coach their team. And it did not happen. I think they got a good proven coach, but
I agree.
He has the same degree of experience in college that Bill Belichick did in joining the football program at UNC. So I'm going to get off that soapbox. That's another college basketball program. And they have not performed up to their standards. But I'll tell you, no ACC coach had 5 20-win seasons in the ACC until they let Hubert Davis go. He's the only one that's done it. So that be as it may. Baseball and the Pirates did not perform as well as they would have liked in Raleigh last night. And it was kind of an interesting game, Kevin, because all the state guys were wearing 26, number 26.
Yeah.
All the Pirate guys wearing number 23. It was strikeout ALS night. And Chris Combs, former first baseman for the Wolfpack, his dad, Francis Combs, was a catcher at NC State. And Francis' brother, Freddie, was on that illustrious 1967 White Shoe defense team at State. That family has been Wolfpack for generations, and Chris Combs passed away from ALS. I saw a baseball game at South Johnston. Chris Combs was calling the plate, and his dad, Francis, was calling the bases. So awesome. I don't know how often that happens in high school baseball, but Chris Combs, I knew him a little bit, and a great guy, and he is missed. And, of course, Keith LeClaire at East Carolina, the Pirates were honoring his memory with the number 23 last night. And it was a competitive game for a while. The Pirates could have had a bigger inning, had the bases loaded with none out, and only got 2 runs out of it. And then the Wolfpack got rolling and took advantage of some East Carolina mistakes later in the game. Be that as it may, East Carolina's 28-17-1 and 12-6 in the American Conference. They go to Memphis for a series that starts Friday night. The Tigers are 16-27 and 8-10 in the league. And Pirates need to win to keep pace potentially with Texas San Antonio and Alabama Birmingham, which are the teams that they are tied for first in the league standings with.
Yeah, you feel like it's becoming another season like last year, where in that they're going to probably have to win the tournament to secure their spot in the postseason. But I do like the fact that they've turned it on in conference play. As you said, they're tied for first in conference at 12-6. They're swinging the bats pretty good. I mean, they're not always doing it in situations where there's runners in scoring position. But we talk about, their team batting average being over 300, led by Jack Herring and Davin Whitaker, who are, well over 350. The guys are putting the ball in play, getting on base. They're just not getting them in enough. And then the pitching staff has been a little bit inconsistent. And so, every time, Cliff Godwin is interviewed, he repeats the fact that this team is better than last year's team. And so I think he believes that. I think that, the guys that he got out of the portal, some of them are showing up, some of them maybe, through injuries and maybe haven't played as well as we thought. But he is confident that this team is going to be good, down the stretch and in the coming years if he can keep them together. But that's the question: can you keep them together? And so, it's been, I wouldn't say disappointing, but it's been unfortunate that they haven't won more games. And obviously, when you play a team like NC State and you lose 12-2, nobody wants to see that around here. But I do think they've shown at times how good they can be. They end up, with a tie versus Carolina, a win over Carolina, who's a top 5 program. So there's been bright spots throughout the season where they've shown what they can do. They just haven't had consistent pitching, and they've left too many guys on base, and I think that's been the main problems. But this team is improving, and they are better than they were a year ago. So who knows what can happen in the latter part of this season and trying to win the conference regular season and also trying to win the tournament.
They've got 20 wins at home, Kevin. The Pirates are 6-9-1 on the road. And I remember, Steve Logan saying that it takes a team a while to gain experience to have that focus that it takes to go on the road and win.
Yeah, it's just a much different deal. Obviously in football, it's even more magnified because if you go into a stadium full of people on the road, like trying to go to South Carolina and win, it's a big deal. But you get used to it at some point. I can remember going into West Virginia, Neyland Stadium, playing there several times, and what that atmosphere was like, and you felt like everybody in the stadium hated you, and you're still trying to find a way to get it done. And so yeah, it takes getting used to that. going up to the plate and having teams, not having fans not being on your side, and you still coming over the base hit or catching a fly ball, in front of that stadium's version of the jungle and trying not to make an error in the outfield. And so, you've got to have that experience. Not something that you're just going to jump out of high school and do, or jump from a smaller program and do. And so I think, these guys are getting there here later in the season as they're starting to shape up nicely in the conference play.
They've dealt with some injuries pitching Gavin Van Kempen, and he was a transfer from West Virginia, and he was pitching extremely well as the Saturday starter. He is out for the season, unfortunately. He is due to have surgery in early May. Colby Weber, the Sunday starter, they're hoping that he will be back by the conference tournament, which gets underway May 19th in Clearwater, Florida. And Grady Lanahan has been out, center fielder, freshman, and he was hit by a pitch and had a broken nose in the Wichita State series. He is not back just yet, but East Carolina had a 4-game winning streak going to state, and it's a testimony to the depth. And in that 4-game winning streak, they had 3 run rule wins.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other one was like 10-2 or something like that. It was not a close game. So decisive wins, despite some injuries, and a team that has the potential to keep growing, I think, as the season progresses.
Yeah, I mean, you get the sweep over South Florida. You're feeling good. You want to go into the NC State game and hopefully carry that momentum. And I think they just got a little shock there. And as you mentioned, it was competitive early on, but State got in a situation where they were able to put some runs across late to kind of put it away. But East Carolina had their opportunities. They had got the bases loaded and couldn't put more runs in. So. You hate giving up 12 runs, but if you're in one of those high scoring games, the bats got to come alive and you got to stay in it. And they weren't able to do that. But I think they've got the players to do it. It's just going to be that consistency.
And then talking about the injury list, Sean Jenkins left the state game, and it was kind of in the middle of the inning. He had not allowed a run, and he was pitching well, but Coach Godwin said that he felt something, and Cliff is going to protect his pitchers, and we don't know what his status will be going forward. But certainly Sean Jenkins and Joe Webb have been aces out of the bullpen for the Pirates.
Yeah, I mean, you get guys that, relief pitching is just interesting because you go with guys that kind of have momentum, right? You guys that have gone out there in crucial situations and to find a way to get some outs. To keep teams off the base pass, and when they show you they can do that, you start to count on them, and you want to start putting them in every game. And so you hope to get your starter to go to give you six innings if you can. 7 innings is great, but this day and age, if a guy starts to struggle in the 3rd and 4th inning, sometimes you get the early hook, and you've got to have a deep relief bench to be able to get out of a game like that. And so. The more, guys like Van Kampen before he got hurt and Norby, the more they can go 5, 6, 7 innings, the better off this team will be when you only got to go with a reliever or 2. And they haven't gotten there consistently enough. But like seeing those relief guys come in and find a way to get outs.
And Joe Webb, he was the conference pitcher of the week. He pitched the last couple of innings in the Saturday game, and then he pitched the last 5 innings, I believe it was Sunday, against South Florida, and that kept the Pirates from having to go to the bullpen on Sunday. They went to Raleigh with a pretty fresh bullpen, but were not able to really make that a factor in the game. Well, Kevin, I think I've exhausted my list of things to talk about here, but give us a little update on the Monroe family and what's going on with your sons, Marcus and Butter there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Al, for giving me an opportunity to talk about them. Yeah, my boys are doing great. Marcus being the older one is headed to Stanford, and he'll be leaving about June 15th. We'll drop him off after a little couple days of vacation out there. So he's just been training like crazy. He's training, doing all the lifts that he's supposed to be doing via Stanford and doing the speed and agility drills. And so he's trying to gain weight as a tight end. They'd like for him to be probably play around 235 or so. He's up to about 222, so he's making good progress. Unfortunate for the player and fortunate for Marcus, they only had 6 tight ends on the roster, which is not a whole lot. I think, this day and age, teams go with 12 personnel, which means 2 tight ends on the field at one time, 13 personnel, which means 3 tight ends on the field at one time. And so you're going to dress 5 or 6 guys just so you can be able to go in those personnel groupings, but also you got tight ends play a lot of special teams. So there's lots of guys that generally play. And for them to only have 6 on the roster, and then we went out there for the spring for practice, the youngest player, the freshman, redshirt freshman tight end they have towards ACL while we were there. So now they've only got 5 guys, including Marcus. And so he may have an opportunity to get on the field next year. And, you never expect that as a freshman playing Power 4 football unless you're one of these, 5-star recruits. So we'll see how it pans out. I don't know if they'll be able to get anybody else in there to strengthen that group up, but he's going to go in ready to make a statement and play. So we'll see how it goes for him. And then my younger son, Derek Butter Monroe, is finishing up his freshman year of high school and getting ready for the offseason and for his sophomore year. He's got a couple offers and he's going to go to some camps over the summer and continue to try to build momentum in recruiting. And we're excited for him. So he's going to be a good one.
Well, I know a lot of it is in the genes, but I think a lot of it is in the parental support as well. And so wish those young men the very best. And enjoyed talking with you as always, Kevin. And we'll do it again soon. And until then, you take good care, and we'll talk to you later.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, Al. We covered a lot today. It was a good show.
Sure.